Good afternoon. Welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host today, Mayor Tim Elinski, and with me, I'm very pleased to have our new magistrate, Judge Kelley, in the room.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad we finally synced up. And
sometimes it's hard. I think we both have careers that make that a little unpredictable.
yes, you're kind of new in your role here in Cottonwood anyway, so I know you've been really busy trying to get things humming along, and so I'm just glad we could finally eke out some time to sit down and meet you. And honestly, I meant to come and meet you much sooner, like within your first week or so on the job, but I couldn't make the time, so I figured, what the heck, let's just get you in on the program and we can have a conversation and get to know one another a little bit better.
Great idea.
So thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
So you've been on the job now for over
2 months almost.
Is it 2 months now? Okay.
Yeah, almost.
Great, good. And so why don't you tell us just a little bit more about you and where you grew up and what sort of led you into your current role?
Wow, my. Originally I'm from Chicago.
Okay.
And grew up actually in the city. And when I was in junior high, we moved up to the suburbs and went to the University of Illinois for my undergraduate work. And what really led me here was I went to the U of I as a pre-med student. like so many people. And I got through to organic chemistry. And that was the one I could not make the leap over.
Got it.
And then I ended up, but I had already planned on doing my junior year in Great Britain.
Okay.
So I was still pre-med when I did that, came back, realized there was no way I was going to med school because I was never going to do better in organic chemistry. And so switched my major to poli-sci, applied to law school, and the rest is history. Here I am. But I ended up going to law school in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And
now, did you ever make it to Great Britain then?
Yes, I did a year.
Okay.
I did a year there.
Your year, okay.
And I was still pre-med then, so I did all science stuff.
Okay.
And that was wonderful. But I gotta tell you, much as I love Europe, and I've been there many times through my high school career and then my college career, there's no place better than right here, the good old US of A.
Yeah.
And so then when I went to law school, Portland, Oregon, is just a fabulously beautiful city. But it's because there is so much green, so many flowers. It's, the breadbasket of the country as far as everything grows there.
Right.
You need a lot of rain to do that.
Yeah.
And so when I finished law school, I knew I was going to go someplace because I was tired of the rain. And it's a constant drizzle. It's pouring on you all day long.
Right.
Everybody conducts their lives as if it is not drizzling.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's out running, and so was I. At the time I ran 5 miles a day, and great parks to run in.
I lived there myself for
some
time.
You did?
Not in Portland, but in the Pacific Northwest on the coast in Oregon, and it was always amazing that nobody owned an umbrella.
Right.
And I'm from here, so it was strange to go up to that neck of the woods. But yeah, you just go about your business.
That's exactly right. And so it was wonderful. My parents, nobody really listens to their parents when they're in their 20s because you know everything when you're in your 20s. And so they said, come to Arizona. It's just, the state's going to just take off and come here. And I said, no, I'll go back to Chicago. And it didn't take me long to realize it still snowed in Chicago, still rained. The traffic was still unbelievable. So I did stay. I got my license to practice law in Illinois.
Yeah.
And actually, I started working for the Cook County Department of Corrections.
Oh.
And I was the legal advisor for the executive director there and spent a lot of time in the Cook County Jail, all my time, doing a lot of disciplinary things. And then public speaking, teaching engagements and things for the sheriff's groups.
Right.
It took me about 3 years to figure out my parents were right. I should have come to Arizona. So picked up everything, came to Arizona, took the bar here. I have 3 licenses to practice law.
You still have your license in Illinois?
I do, and in Oregon.
Okay.
And started working in the public defender's office down in Maricopa County.
Okay. About what year was that roughly?
1986.
Okay.
And then rather quickly got asked by the prosecutors to come over to their side of the fence. I don't know if that's because I was such a bad public defender that I seemed like a prosecutor. I'm not sure. Such a great public defender, they wanted to get me out of there. I'm not sure. But then I worked for Maricopa County Attorney's Office as a prosecutor, and then did 10 years with the town of Gilbert as their chief prosecutor.
Did you ever know Judge Ralph Smith by any chance?
I did not.
Okay, just curious.
No.
My mom worked down there as well in the Maricopa County Superior Court's office. I didn't know if maybe
Okay.
Superior Court, so maybe you weren't.
No, right. Yep, exactly. And he must not have been on a criminal rotation at that time, because the judges rotate. And it was so much smaller than it is today. Oh my gosh, I'm amazed. I went down there once last year. I thought, this is nothing like what I knew.
Yeah.
And so, but after that, actually, I took many years off to raise the kids.
Okay.
And homeschooled my first daughter all the way through high school, and the others lesser degrees. Once it appeared that one of them wanted to go to school, at that point, you can't send one off to public school and tell the others to stay, because they want that experience too. And we had never intended for the kids not to go to college. And probably the biggest regret that I have in homeschooling our oldest daughter was when she got to college, it was way different than homeschooling. I was always interested in, do you know the material? Can you explain why you chose that answer, even if it's not the right answer? What was your logic and reasoning?
Right.
Well, you go to school, here's the test, you got 50 minutes to do it, and nobody cares what your logic is. Now, did you get the right answer? It was a huge transition for her. And I regretted that. So when the third oldest said, can I go to high school? We talked about it. We said, yeah, we always intended for you guys to go to college. Let's make it a little easier. Learn how to go to school. Yeah, you got the basic foundation of how do you learn. Now figure out how to do that in the school system.
And this was all down in Phoenix or Gilbert?
No, actually, by then we'd moved up to Yavapai County. And so we were up in this area, and our best friends lived in Cottonwood, and so we were familiar with this area and spent a lot of time in this area. And so then it turned out that about 10 years ago, our neighbors, many of them were council members, and they came to me one day and they said, we want to start a court. Would you consider being a judge? And I said, yeah, I'm homeschooling 5 kids. I don't know how I could do that. And they said, well, it's part-time. And then they told me how many hours they were thinking. I said, sure, I can do that. I can make time, and the kids can watch mom being legal again. And so that's where it started.
That's great. So you've been in Yavapai County for quite some time then?
13 years.
13, okay. Awesome. So then your first job as judge was for, is it town of Dewey-Humboldt?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. And then I soon expanded to doing work for Prescott. And Dewey-Humboldt has a limited population. Population's about 4,400. And they don't have a police force, which of their own. They have, obviously, the sheriff's department. They're under contract with them. But I needed more experience so that I could learn what would make me succeed at that job, and also help people to understand the system they were in. And so, like I said, it started volunteering in Prescott, and it soon worked itself into all kinds of other pro tem work.
So you volunteered as pro tem in Prescott?
Actually, I volunteered to do their civil traffic and any other hearings they had. And then that turned into pro temming in the Prescott Justice Court, which is consolidated with the Prescott City Court. And so there you're running the whole gamut between justice, the difference between a justice peace court and a normal city or municipal court. And then expanded that into Superior Court. And expanded from there into jail court on the weekends. So I've got a pretty good solid basis in criminal law.
And tribal court too, right? Don't
That's
you have
correct.
some experience there?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It's in prosecution in tribal court, and that's interesting because it's kind of a parallel universe. Things are the same but not quite the same, and that's kind of fun because you got a lot of things to compare it to, and so I've enjoyed learning things that I never thought I would.
Yeah.
You know, if you'd asked me when I was in college, was I going to be here today? Never in a million years. Never.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness for that biochemistry, or what was the class?
Organic chemistry.
Organic chemistry, excuse me, yes. We're very pleased organic chemistry was your stumbling block here in Cottonwood. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks.
All right, we have to take just a real quick 1-minute break and we'll come back.
Okay.
Thanks.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
This is Bruce Merle, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your Mayor Tim Elinski, and with me, Mayor Cottonwood. With me is the Cottonwood Magistrate, Judge Kelley. And before we took break, we were just talking about where you grew up and sort of what led you to become the judge of Cottonwood. And you were talking a little bit about your experience and how you had volunteered over in Prescott and then started working as pro tem and even had some tribal experience with tribal courts. And I think when our council was reviewing your application and interviewing you, I think one of the things that really stood out to me the most about you is that I think your ability to connect with folks that come into your courtroom and really sort of explain. I think you take a fair amount of time explaining to them the system and the process and really taking the time to help them understand, which I think in a community like ours is important. So I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit more about, you know, the role that you feel you play in the courtroom with the community.
Misdemeanor courts, lower courts, municipal courts, so the JP courts and the municipal courts are different courts than Superior Court. And the people who end up with a case at our level of court are kind of different people too. And I'm not, saying good or bad. I'm saying these are your next door neighbors. These are people who did something that the law indicates could be considered criminal, and somehow it was. They're having an argument in their home, and the neighbor calls the police. They're thinking they're having an argument in their home. Once the neighbor calls the police, now we're starting to look at whether this is disorderly conduct because it disturbed the peace of the people who live next door. And so what became apparent to me immediately was these were average, ordinary people. And I know a couple of things about average, ordinary people. Let me go back to Cook County Jail. In the Cook County Jail, it was at the time, and it's probably even larger now, there was a population of about 6,000 people there.
Inmates?
Inmates, yes,
Okay.
at any one time. And it was always full. And they were what I would call real criminals. These people were there for felony offenses, and they were there for big felony offenses. When I moved to Arizona and started working in the public defender's office, one of the things that struck me immediately was that here in Arizona, I had clients sitting in jail for having one joint of marijuana cigarette. in Chicago, you couldn't get anywhere near the jail with that kind of a substance or that kind of a charge. And so then coming to the misdemeanor courts, I realized those are the people I've got here, people, just normal people who have done something that's considered wrong, and they probably have never been in the criminal justice system, so they know nothing about what we're doing. And any large governmental system, there are a lot of ways you can get yourself in trouble. And one of the ways that I like to explain the criminal justice system to folks is it's a system I would never want to be involved with if I had a choice. And you know, if you have a commitment to the criminal justice system, be that through owing a fine or needing to do community service or anything, having to do counseling, the difference between having a commitment to a court and having a commitment to, say, pay your Visa card is Visa's going to bug you if you don't make your payment. You know, they're going to add fees on, and they're going to maybe eventually call you and send you some letters. Maybe they'll eventually take you to small claims court. We're going to issue a warrant for your arrest. This is a huge difference. And I'm really convinced that although people understand that on they understand that they could get arrested, they don't realize it's true. And so I've always enjoyed explaining things to people to hopefully keep them out of trouble. And what I've found, once again, I think it's somewhat unique to this level of court, the people listen. They get it when you tell them in the language that they can understand that we are going to issue a warrant for your arrest if you don't pay us. Now, if you come see us 3 days before your payment's due and you tell us you can't pay it, if you come 5 minutes before your payment's due and tell us you can't pay it, we're going to be very sympathetic because everybody is a very real person in the court system, and frankly, all the judges in Yavapai County that I've met, very practical, normal people. If you give them a chance to treat you well, they will. And so I enjoy this. I like people. I like just talking to them. And if they want to know something that I know, I'll try explaining it any which way from Sunday until they think they've got it. And so it's what I like about this level of court.
Your love of people really did come through during the interview, and I think it impressed me at least, and I felt like you would be a very good fit for our court. So. Well,
and I've noticed that about your population. I like your population. I really do, because you have all kinds of people, but a lot of them just nice, ordinary folks that you'd want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with and see how their life's been. Because it's a very diverse group. And so yeah, it's been very enjoyable getting to meet the people, even though we're meeting in not so desirable circumstances.
Which is why we're bringing you in today. So people can get to know you a little bit better without having to pay a fine.
Yes.
So like you said, you've been on for just a little less than 2 months. I believe anyway that our court was built on a solid foundation. I think that we've been doing some really great things in the community. So I hope there weren't too many hiccups coming on, but I'm just curious, have there been any surprises, both positive and negative, that you've experienced coming into the Cottonwood Municipal Court?
I guess I wouldn't call it a surprise, but the thing that I was most gratified about was there was nothing huge to fix. And I have to, honestly, I have to credit the court staff that still exists, the prosecutor, and there are 1 or 2 standard kind of public defenders, and everybody works as a team. Now, everybody's on different sides of that team, but if the goal is to do what's best in this situation for this individual, and if it can be done, because sometimes we cannot help somebody for a variety of reasons. But if the goal is the same, let's make it so this person never has to come see us again. This is an astounding group of people to work with, honest to God. I every day I'm impressed with the court staff. Yeah, they'll say something to me about what they used to do, and I'll think, wow, that's exactly what I would do, which makes me feel good,
Sure.
and providing it's the right answer,
Sure.
it really works. But I think the same way about, like I say, the prosecutor and the defense attorneys coming in, they're just, nobody's notching off things on their bedpost as far as, oh, I got this many convictions, or I did this to this person. There's not one person in this group that's like that.
Good.
And that's unusual, even in our county.
Is that right? That's good to hear. I know our court staff has really been working so well together for a number of years. And
They have.
I know Jordahl, our prosecutor, has implemented some programs and worked with former Judge Lesotho to implement some programs, which I'd like to talk a little bit more about, but again, we have to take a quick 1-minute break. So when we get back, we'll talk some more about the programs that the court has and how that kind of helps our community be a little bit stronger.
Excellent,
Okay,
thanks.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
This is Bruce Merle, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. Again, I'm your host, Mayor Tim Elinski, and we have with us Judge Kelley, our new 2-month-old magistrate here in Cottonwood, who comes to us with a great amount of experience and compassion, and we're, again, so pleased to have you on. So we're just having a conversation with Judge Kelley today to get to know her a little bit better, under better circumstances, so the folks in the listening audience don't have to pay their fine to get to know our judge. So before we split for break, we were talking about the great court staff that we have, and our city prosecutor, Mick Jordahl, who's worked with staff to implement some great programs in Cottonwood. And some of these programs are aimed to help folks, like you said, move out of the system as quickly as possible, get back on their feet, be better members of our community here in Cottonwood. So I'm curious if you could speak a little bit. Hopefully you're familiar enough with them to speak about some of the programs that we have that help our citizens.
Well, the one I'll tell you about, twice a week, we do cases that deal with some of these issues that you're talking about. And so, with about 7-8 court periods that I've actually been able to work with them, I don't know a great deal about it, but I'll tell you what I have seen and is impressive. Particularly impressive to me are the program that deals with the homeless, and it kind of dovetails sometimes with mental illness. And the program is marvelous as far as taking the resources that the community has and bringing them all together, so that if this is a person who truly can figure out how to get out of the cycle they're in, they'll be able to do it. We've had one person I'll say graduate from that kind of program since I've been there, and it was heartwarming to see the public defender talk about how well this person had done, and and this is over the course of at least a year. And same thing with Mick, and just being the prosecutor. I mean, he wasn't in there feeling bad because he hadn't gotten a conviction on this case or whatever. He was in there rejoicing that this man, if he can stay on that track, is never going to be back. And Cottonwood has some great resources. I'm tremendously impressed with the number of people willing to help people with problems.
Right. And these are deferred prosecution programs that we're speaking about, correct?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And the other thing that they use in this court that many courts in the county do not use is just the whole concept of a deferred prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do something once again, like we were talking about, kind of out of character maybe for you, and there you find yourself in the criminal justice system. The prosecutor isn't necessarily talking with you about how can I get you to plead guilty or how can I take you to trial so you're found guilty. It's how can, you know, what can we do that would be effective, that would pay back the community for what you did,
Mm-hmm.
but that would defer the prosecution so you don't end up with a conviction.
Right.
And he offers that consistently. To my eye and watching other jurisdictions, the deferred prosecution has gone the way of the buffalo.
Mm.
And it is a vital part, I think, of the success, because that gives credibility to our prosecutor. He's not just out for blood.
Right.
He wants to do what's right.
Right.
And, you know, and I think that's something that gets lost many times in court systems, and the larger the court system, perhaps the more it gets lost, is justice is supposed to be a part of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we should be able to, we can't, in a big system, you can't treat everybody as if they are a unique, you know, little parcel and you're going to fix or do something that's unique for them. But in our size systems, we can get pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what these deferrals do to the various programs.
Right.
And they don't give up on you. If you slip once, I think everybody in the system is mature enough to know that happens too.
Right.
Especially if you've got a long recovery time.
Mm-hmm.
You might slip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's make provision for that too.
Right.
So nobody's pulling the rug out from under you.
Sure.
It's extraordinary. Honest to God, Tim, it's just extraordinary
Yeah.
how good everybody is.
That's great.
So,
And so
that's the surprising thing.
good. I'm glad. I'm glad it's a pleasant surprise.
It is.
Yeah, and I think you're right when you say we have good partners
Mm-hmm.
in our community. I think Spectrum has probably been a tremendous partner
Yep,
with your court system.
yep.
Yeah,
And some of the places that take in some of the people, the one that I hear consistently is Angie's house.
Sure.
Never been there, but that is the one that I hear consistently.
yeah,
And they're a group too that I think, you know, just because somebody goofs up and gets kicked out for whatever, if they can have them back, they will.
right.
And at some point, obviously, it doesn't work. But really, super resources. I learned of a resource the other day from one of the sergeants. And she was talking about it's a group called U.S. Vets.
Uh-huh.
And apparently they have resources that they want to share with us. And so she and I are going to talk and see if we can do something with getting the prosecutor involved so that he has something else he can put out there.
Sure.
And so it's just a very good system you've actually got here.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
I know I probably won't see you in it, but you'd be okay.
you never know. I might surprise you one of these days. Well, we don't have much time left, but I'm just curious if there's anything that you're hoping to accomplish in your role, if there's any new programs you want to implement, or just things are going so swimmingly that you don't really have to do much.
You know, I think there were some difficult years for the court, and I think the court staff needed a break and a time when they could just say, okay, Judge, you do your thing and we're going to do ours, and then we can both improve on that. And what I saw that they had just been aching to do was do some automation that makes it more likely that they can get more work done in a day without sacrificing the human touch. And so that's what we have been working on for the last couple of months. And what I've learned about the court staff is everybody's innovative. Somebody has an idea, they bounce it off me or they bounce it off the court administrator, and before we know it, the next day somebody's made a form or somebody's, you know, figured out a program or whatever. And so I don't feel like there's anything I need to do, because I think every day that I come in, we do something to improve the system. And that's very gratifying to work like that.
Yeah.
You know, so many people have to work in something that doesn't work.
Right.
And probably even worse than that is they get berated if they make a suggestion,
Right.
and it doesn't work.
Right.
All of us agree. Doesn't work, we go back to what we did, or we think of something new.
Right.
And so it's really, it's a great place to work, Tim.
Great.
Thank you for
thank-
offering me that job.
Oh, we are so pleased, and thank you for accepting. You know, you really stood out above all the applicants, and we're just so pleased to have you. It's a really exciting time for us, and I'm glad that you're excited about your staff, and I'm sure they're excited to have you on board as well.
Yeah,
So-
we're getting along really well.
That's good. That's good. That's great. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and coming in and getting to know you a little bit better. It's great to meet you finally and have you be introduced to the community. So again, we hope that they meet you under these circumstances and not by going in front of you in court. But if they do, I'm sure that experience will be very pleasant.
Yes, yes, I think it will be. If they just tell the truth, we can work with truth.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you, Judge. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks for watching Inside Cottonwood. We'll be seeing you again next month. Thank you.